Welcome, everyone, to another but very special episode of Heal Your Mind, Heal the World podcast. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, welcome. This podcast is about healing of the mind. When I set up this podcast, I wanted to share how healing one's mind is all that we can do. And my guest today is proving that, and how through healing her own mind, she is really healing the world. Her name is Rebecca Rose. She also goes by Serious Blue. She is a survivor of human trafficking on planet and off planet, as well as a sexual abuse survivor. Today's episode could get dark. And so if that's not your thing, come back another time. But if you want to see what real wisdom, grace, and healing is, then I suggest you stick around. Without further ado, welcome, Rebecca, to Heal Your Mind, Heal the World podcast.
Thank you, Anne, for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's lovely to see you again. It's been a while. Yeah.
It has been a while. I've had you on my various iterations of podcasts in the past. I know one for sure. And we connected on so many different levels with our light language, with our healing. And this invitation into this new podcast that I've put about is coming through the lens of really the core essence of this mission, this Heal Your Mind, Heal the World mission that I have.
Yeah.
You have been through a series of videos sharing with your followers a journey of you healing your own mind. It's so hard for me to say, oh yeah, just start at the beginning. It's like, there's no
I know. Where do you jump into the story? Where do I?
There's just like no way to jump in. Rebecca's story, for those of you who do not know her, is so extensive, and it extends beyond this dimensional realm. It extends into other lifetimes, clone lifetimes, secret space program lifetimes. But I would really love to focus on these last few podcasts that I've just recently heard, where you so bravely talk about the sexual abuse that you have endured as a small child. And so maybe could you just kind of catch up this new audience potentially to this part of your story?
Yeah. So, and I find myself going, okay, where do I dive in? So just the nuts and bolts of pieces of this, the context of it. My father worked for the deep state military industrial complex, and his best friend was my godfather, also working in the same vein with a high secret clearance. And my godfather was kind of a handler and a groomer from the time I was born until the time I was 7. I grew up in the Northeast, southern New Hampshire, in if it matters. And he took me throughout the years to events in which child pornography was made, filmed, and horrific things, horrific kinds of abuse that were extremely deviant in nature. This went on for years. He had been in the military. He had a private plane. He flew me places. He drove me places in the car. I might be gone a few days with him. And I have vivid memories of some of that. I used to have nightmares about, these bunkers that had the concrete, and inside were all these photos of me, wall to wall, floor to ceiling, of like Polaroids of me in compromised positions with grown men as a very small child. So you get an idea of what was happening with this. He died just over a year ago. And I knew with his death, even before he passed away, this is decades later, I'm in my 50s now, that there would be more coming through. Because in my experience, when a perpetrator dies, at least for me, memories come home. And there are things to be reckoned with. And so I knew that was coming after his death. And I went, oh, okay, all right, standing by, not necessarily going digging, because this aspect of my story was not in the SSP. It was not multidimensional. This was going on in this realm, like for real. We talk about 3D Rebecca. This was, it certainly primed me to be taken later into the space program. They want traumatized kids. I was already traumatized from my family of origin, my mother and father, who also had sexual abused me, not together, but separately and for different reasons. So I knew that things were going to kind of blow up around Eckstein, who was his last name, Frank Eckstein.
Yeah, such
I
a
knew things would
curious,
come.
curious last
Yes, no
name, would
kidding.
you say?
Isn't that crazy? He was German born. He came, his dad died in the war. He and his mom came to the US when he was 10. Anyway, he died, and then I started it. I told my partner at the time in the spring, this a year ago, there might be things coming through me or coming up for me that will be a lot to hold. And it was precognitive because in December, just some months back, I had a night where the child parts that experienced all of this began talking. They took over my body, and a long night. There was many hours of like all of this stuff coming through me, like in a way that I can't quite describe. It was next level, like memory coming back, and I knew some of it, but to have it overtake me in such a forthright, confronting way, unexpectedly, was jarring to my sense of identity, which is good. That's always a gap and an opening through which we can learn more about ourselves. So a lot of healing also came through because this is an experience that I had dismissed and denied and wanted to go away.
Right.
Because when there's something so disruptive and so fucked up going on in our childhood, it destroys the fabric of everything we thought was true about our lives.
Absolutely.
And because it's so connected to family, there's an intimacy to that it isn't, in my Montauk experiences and my experiences on the moon and Mars. This is different. So connected. Like, how much did my father know? How much did my mother know? Were they, all these things. So I've been going on a long time here. Let me pause and leave a gap. Yeah.
Yes, first I before we started recording,
Mm.
Rebecca and I have connected, and you and I have connected on for different wavelengths, different reasons, but the only reason you have been able to do what you did is because of the spiritual growth, the dedication to your own soul that is required for this to unfold naturally. So, or organically, I should say, not so much naturally, but organically, in coordination with your higher self, which is always guiding you, your guidance, your guides. This is not something that I don't believe. Well, I can't even say that I don't believe it, because I don't know what the higher self of a person who has suffered abuse, what is in store for them. But please describe a little bit. There were several events that led up to this particular event that you described, and you actually shared with us because it was recorded. And
subsequent episode, well, I didn't catch the December one. I wish I had, but I didn't. But I caught one that happened in February last month.
Sorry,
It's on
yes.
record. You can go back to my Bringing Light to the Darkness episode number 23. That is in the series. Different from the episodes I'm describing. I don't know what else to call them when I'm, the wounded child aspect is coming forth with intelligence, with information, with emotion, and with somatic process,
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so can you talk about let's say your journey from December to this past release of the inner child, this communication with the inner child. And what
Yeah.
can you talk about that portion? Because that to me is a master class. It's a master class in personal healing. Yeah.
Yes. So um, I'm just drawing myself back to that night. It was the 12/12 of December 12th, 2025. And after that whole thing happened, I mean, it's shocking to be in it because I was sort of aware of what was going on, but I couldn't really relate. My partner was with me, um, kind of holding space, and I kind of could only gasp out little bits from my conscious self. So after that, I felt the next day very like, what just happened? Like,
Mhm.
am I losing my mind? You know,
Mhm.
um, my mother, I would say, she and her mother have would classically be called as having mental illness. So I thought, is this where that family mark, is going to show for me? I'm going to start like having, alters expressing themselves and things I can't control are happening, and I'm not at the helm of my life anymore. But I came in the days following it, slowly titrating my doses of like integration with this, like, wow, it was shocking. It was so shocking to my whole being. It was so confronting, but absolutely the medicine that I needed to unlock my life. And I realized that there was a deep healing inside of it. Like, what if I had never known about this? What if these parts, these prisoners to the psyche and to the subconscious and to these excruciating and horrific sexual abuse scenarios, what if they had never spoken to me? I would be living in a much smaller place than I am today. And this has all happened in just a couple of months. So it also gave me, the child porn stuff had been in a vault. I talked about it in pieces and parts. I talked about it on my, YouTube channel. I talked about it in some interviews. Some interviewers would just edit it out of the conversation. And we go into the space stuff. Okay, fine. But this was like, okay, I can't deny this anymore because I could not have fabricated what came out of me that night.
Yeah.
Could not have made it up. And everything landed like, this is fucking real. This is not a fiction. And I have to face it. I cannot run away from this anymore.
Mhm.
What a lesson. And
Yeah.
I've had to do that across the board with many things, but there's something just because it was my father's best friend and because my father's implicated, my family's implicated, I was trafficked, and
Right.
that was in a different way than ETs picking me up in a ship, and that's also traumatic. But things have been coming home, and this was another key piece that I needed to work with. And this is just my life going forward. This is how it is. But does that help? I should say also, I am adept at working with child parts. I've been doing that for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years on my own. And it's also something I do skillfully with integrating child parts with my clients. So
Right.
I feel like all of that is kind of really necessary soul retrieval when we've been through any kind of very abusive experiences. And also for most of us didn't receive for whatever reason, our caregivers couldn't give us what we needed
Right.
in our early lives. And there's usually some pieces we can draw upon and bring those kiddos home. They have so much wisdom and so much intelligence and so much love and spontaneity and joy inside of them. When we integrate them in these parts, disenfranchised, our lives begin to really sing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so from a clinician's point of view, the mind is a loving structure, even though it has been weaponized by our governments and by the dark forces to work against us. It is ultimately a loving thing because when we are traumatized, it allows us to hold that trauma. In your case, you said it was locked
Yeah.
away in a vault. Okay.
Mhm.
And it does require permission from the subconscious mind to release that information. And so, for somebody who may not have had the abuse that you have, I mean, I had a portion of my childhood locked away that in my own healing journey, I was like, oh, got a little girl in there. Little girl, like I didn't even know that I didn't know that I had a whole part of myself locked away. But having said
Yeah,
all of that, having said all of that, is the mind has been weaponized. And in your case, uh, your mind needed to protect you. But here you are as an adult.
absolutely. It, yeah. It would not have been safe to have this come up while he was still living.
No.
Because there's terror connected to him, with not from my adult self in, you know, but from those child parts, when, and you know this, and that when we experience a trauma that's so acute, our memory in our mind kind of fragments into the memory is stored in pieces and parts, like you said, to protect us. It's a survival strategy of the psyche to move through life in the best way you can.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So keep that over here someplace so we can just kind of get through the day. Um, I would say, you know, th through my spiritual practice over the years, I was doing more than getting through the day, but there was still this like, I can't quite go here yet. I can't, and I don't know how it's going to unfold. But precognitively, like I said, I did realize like, shit's going to hit the fan, Rebecca. Be prepared. Um, so it's amazing I can find levity inside of this. So to speak to, and you had said this, thank you for your kind words. I had done many years of, my sitting practice of meditation life, and it's stabilized me so I could really start looking at the space memories and all that was coming up when my father died. Um, so in the breadth and depth of healing that I'd done up to this point that allowed this to come through in a way that didn't just break me. It made me stronger, clearer, wiser, and more empowered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when your father
Mm.
died, and I remembered you speaking so genuinely. And that's another reason why I'm so drawn to you, because you are so authentic and you are so raw uh, and real, I should say, very much, like myself. And I so appreciate that. And that shows me, um, you can't refute what you're going through. You can't. No one can say to you, you're just insane, you're crazy. No, you've been through what you've been through. And so can you give us that was in December of 12/12. You had this initial, let's say the floodgate opened, or the jail door opened, the box opened, however you want to put
Yeah.
it, and you started to experience this resurgence of your child parts in a very
Mhm.
uh,
Very embodied way, very
embodied
embodied
way.
way, a very
Thank you.
present
That's
way.
exact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so you went through that one experience, and then you were invited to speak on a very large platform about this. Can you talk about that experience and what led
Yep.
up to ultimately the recording of this
Yeah.
event? Mm-hmm.
So I knew anything that's been locked in secret silence forever needs to be talked about. And that's kind of all these festering wounds are coming up now for the collective to deal with. My story is part of that. It's timely, divine timing. So I knew I had to start speaking more forthrightly to these experiences, not tucked away beneath all the SSP stuff, but like just this, because the trafficking of children in our world is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the US is a prime consumer of child porn. It goes beyond in the scenarios. I'm going to get to your question, but the scenarios that I was involved in were very much mind manipulation, mind control, for the people who were the guys in the deep state who were being compromised in this way. Filmed them having sex with a child. And the classified world will own you forever. You cannot get out. So there's more than just like producing porn. There's a lot of other high level orchestration, organization behind this. It was a crime syndicate for sure. But so going back to, I needed to speak. That was a long way of saying I needed to speak about the topic. It's timely. So I accepted an interview down to talk to Mark Lyda in the Soft White Underbelly recording studio in Los Angeles. He's got a platform with 7 million viewers, and he shares in-person interviews with that go into like the dark side or the fringe of humanity, sharing what a lot of people don't want to look at. Now, that was, I recorded that in, it was late Feb when we recorded. The video has not dropped yet. And he said that was an excellent interview. So I think either he had some issues maybe with strikes on YouTube and having like to be strategic about, it was very graphic. I didn't share anything graphic with you, but I went into great detail about what went on. Explicit detail. So I don't know what's happened with the interview. In any case, just to say, like, if people are looking for it, where is it? That night after the interview in Los Angeles, it was the 2/26/26 at that point. Something about numbers. I was staying with a friend who's an acupuncturist. I was very ill after the interview. A couple hours later, went and laid down on her acupuncture table, and I start to have another one of these episodes with the child parts coming through, and they were saying, child part, it coming through in a child's voice. I mean, this is what I recorded. I asked Joanne, can you go and get the phone? Not a good time for me to try and speak out of my conscious mind. It's not a great time to interrupt, but go and get the phone because I need this documented, please. So again, the child parts were coming through and they were saying, we told and we weren't supposed to tell, they're going to kill us. And they were describing this child aspect was, describing like very graphic sexual abuse. And it was very much right here, right now, this is coming up. She is speaking. And after that happened, I realized, what, the difference between the 1212 and, 226 was that I had more command. My adult self was coming in and saying, hey, sweetie, I'm here. I hear you. I hear how hard that would have been. I'm right here holding you and no one is coming, et cetera, et cetera. So there was more integration that was able to happen in this episode. I was more conscious and communicating from, the self that's speaking to you now, the regulated parent aspect, right? And the small part, hey, sweetie, it's okay. I know that was terrible. I'm glad you're speaking to us. We need to hear these things. We're all here for you, et cetera, et cetera. I said, you didn't need to take the pain of those children when they were killed. That's not ours to carry. You can love them and let them heal. It's all my life. That's a part of the mind control programming, is that the perpetrators twisted it around so it looks like you did it. What is that going to do? If you feel like you're responsible for the death of a child, as you're still a child, you will spend a lifetime suffering in silence and never tell anybody. That puts the kid into lockdown and it protects the perps, across the board.
Right.
So.
And just for my own question, this was not a satanic ritual abuse. This was kind of like a corporate child pornography, snuff films.
There was definitely a higher hand in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall. I don't have memory of satanic abuse in that arena.
Okay.
It comes into my story in other ways, another section.
Okay.
But not within what was happening with the porn. No.
Okay.
Not that I know of, at least at this point. No.
Right. Just out of, divine happenstance, Sunday night I was driving home. I had like about an hour drive, and what comes up but your December recollection on my YouTube. So I listened to that coming home. So just out of sheer, divine happenstance. And so one thing you
Right.
had said,
Yeah.
so the reason why I asked you about the satanic nature is because in SRA, there's often the children participate in the extermination of other children.
Yes.
And you had mentioned
Yes.
something about taking off in an airplane. Is that correct? And what they did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you be willing to share that memory? Because I also believe that we need to know the truth of what has been
Yeah.
supporting our government, what has been supporting our
Yes.
society. Okay, we need to know this, and it's off the blood of children. It's off the blood of children,
It's
literally.
off the blood of children. Thank you. Mhm.
Yeah.
It is. So back on the 12/12, during the hours long episode that I had that night, it was shocking, as we said. Um, one of my parts came through and said, when the plane takes off, they shoot a child in the head. So there was, I don't want this to get pulled off YouTube for you, but children would be killed in these scenarios. And that's why I
Right.
say, you know, this is not, this is an oxymoron, normal sexual abuse, but it's highly deviant and
Yeah.
takes it to an extreme that is very hard for the human mind and the human heart to hold.
Right.
Anytime we're using a sentence that has child killing inside of it, there's a problem,
Mm-hmm.
a big one.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens with that? We are programmed, the surviving children, everyone in the whole place is shocked, right? It's so shocking, everyone will forget. The perpetrators themselves will be are wounded on some level by this, and their programming is further deepened. They can't get out. Nobody can.
Yeah.
Once something so tragic happens and so fucking shocking and tragic and unbelievable, right? So it was used as a kind of mind control, and it was also sometimes this would happen in the porn scenarios where, again, this is graphic, holding space for light inside of this, but the death of a child would be sexualized and filmed.
Right.
And that is really hard to hold. If anybody in the audience feels really messed up from that, that's a right response.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. That means you're intact.
Mm-hmm.
And I can feel that come up for me every time I talk about it, because it's like, where do I go with this? Memories that I can't forget.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a way that I wish I could not see what I've seen, not remember what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
What a legacy that is. And it's just sort of haunting. And I think that's another reason why I've had to go through I need to go through my own healing journey, which is, always in progress, but so I can be, having survived this as well as the SSP, as somebody who is well enough to speak to the issue, that I view as part of my job.
Well, this is why I brought you here, because you are well enough to speak on this issue, and I trust you.
Yeah.
It takes spiritual fortitude, real spiritual inner gnosis of who you truly are, to be able to say and to be able to be brave enough to truly heal from this. And if you look at it from a divine perspective, that you are you are embodied, and you were chosen, or you volunteered to go through all of this, to bring this light to the darkness, which is the name of your podcast, the name of your series, Bringing Light. So can you talk now, going from that darkness into the light, and share with us some of the beauty that you have found in this exploration of your mind?
Yeah. I have to say it's also an exploration of the heart.
Thank you.
So much of my healing has happened through developing self-compassion, self-tenderness, self-care, self-kindness, self-love, which nobody who comes out of those experiences is gifted with any of those things. Those are stripped. So, what you said about the soul's journey, I think learning that I did years ago, in my just receiving this from my team, so to say, my spiritual team and my higher self is like, there was a contract or there was an agreement to come in. And what I always say is like exploring the belly of the beast, and the darkest, deepest, fathomless depths of that dark belly, to become part of its undoing. To become part of its undoing. So not on my watch does this continue. Right?
And
That's a
we
powerful
all need to make that commitment. We all need to consciously, as a race, as a collective mind, and this is where we can contribute, is say, I will not allow this. I do not give my consent for this to go on. And just by doing that, just by taking a stand, we can energetically ripple to where this will shift the entire frequency of the planet and shift out of this behavior.
Radically. And the time seems to be ripe for that. So, so understanding that the soul's perspective on this, the why of it and the bigger picture has always been so helpful. I get it. I can metabolize this. I'm here for a reason, and this is part of it. And that's not to say from a 3D perspective, there wasn't intense victimization of my innocence. But also to acknowledge both. I can hold both that reality and I came in for a reason, and this is part of it. That doesn't mean that the perpetrators aren't responsible. And, of course, we're all responsible for our carryings on here in this reality from moment to moment. And then just the integration of the child parts, in the days after the 12/12 and since all throughout, since that happened, and even before, I kind of tune in to the vulnerable pieces of me. I see you. What do you need? Is there something I can give you? And we're constantly reparenting. That's what I feel like the inner child or parts integration is really about. We're reparenting, giving what those kids didn't have when the trauma was happening. What, for my case, what? Safety, presence, protection, to be seen and heard, etc. So that's the biggest one for me, has been bringing safety, and it goes back into infancy. A lot of abuse happened to me before I could walk or talk, which is so sad because it makes such destructive imprints on the unconscious, not just the subconscious and the programs that we'll carry, but deeper into the unconscious, which can be hard to get at, the trauma that we carry from our very, very earliest life when we're just being born into this world. But that's an ongoing thing. And I love doing this for myself and clients, is like lavishing those child aspects that we all have. We all have them. It's not just me. We can bring them around, and we can show them their value and their worth, and we can remember who we are. And the innocence then restored helps shift the template. Why is this planet held in lockdown? Because we've been trained to be at war with ourselves. As long as that's kept going, and it's a program, to be sure, insidious and everywhere, pervasive, the war on the planet goes on. But when we liberate, in your case, you might say the mind, I might say the heart, something happens at a profound level, and we are bringing the planet back into innocence. We come into self-tenderness in new ways. I see you. I hear you. I love you. You're safe. All of that. Yeah. So I think that's, when you ask about healing the light inside, this is a big piece of it for me.
And have you noticed, let us say, in my own case, when I heal a part of me, it's as if this void that I never knew existed finally feels full. Can you
Oh,
can you
yeah.
relate to that? And how are you doing now?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so the void. I don't know if I would, in my experience might be a little different. It's more like I just feel more self-connected and more whole. Um, yeah, just those, I think that's it. Yeah, I experience more acceptance, self-acceptance, and more ease inside. And actually, I want to say more ease in my nervous system, because the more we work with dysregulated child parts, the more our nervous system is like, we don't want to spend our whole life in or sympathetic arousal and hypervigilance and, panic and overreacting to situations. We want to dial our system down, the nervous system down into parasympathetic state, which is really restful and sweet. And that's what I feel more and more of as I do that work with the children and the child aspects.
Mhm.
We talk about over the years, has been a lot to integrate, a lot to bring home, and in the time that's elapsed since the 1212. So I feel now just even more in alignment, even more just trusting of my path, myself, my life, the world. That's a big win, because I came through this world not trusting anything, always waiting for the next shoe to drop, or the next drama to unfold, the next abuse scenario to happen. And I feel like, hey, I live in a benevolent world and the universe has my back. I can let
Mhm.
go. And that's even transformed so much in the past weeks and months. Like just more recently, like, oh, my LA trip down, down to that interview, everything was so divinely aligned. Like there's so many places things could have gone off the rails and nothing did. I was like, oh, I have angels around me. Like this is this is like this is I feel very humbled by this, because um there's just so much light.
Mhm.
There's so much light.
Yes, thank you. How beautiful is that? Um, if you
Mm.
had to give advice to someone who suspects, because I have clients who come to me all the time, I'm missing time in my childhood, and
Yeah.
I want to know what that is. Um,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for someone who believes that they may have been, in one form or another, gravely abused, and they
Hmm.
have what
Yeah.
advice do you have for them?
So a few things there. Um, Based on my own experience and experiences of clients, I would say, what if it's true? Believe your story, stop doubting yourself. And that's not to say jump on board with everything that you think, because that can be problematic, but also check in with your body. When this is coming up and you're like, oh shit, something happened. If you can, and not everybody, if you've got extreme amounts of trauma, feeling what's alive in your bodily sensations will not feel comfortable. It will feel scary. But if you're resourced enough, tune into the interoception and your internal perception of yourself and just feel like, what does the body know? Because the body, the soma contains a record of everything that's happened to us. Hence my 1212 episode with the parts coming up. It's all there for us. We have to be willing to do that patient work um, of listening. And sometimes that's hard, especially if we think there's something there, and it might be, there's going to be two things. There's going to be a part of you that wants to know, and there's a part of you that wants to leave it and run. I see this across the board. It's not just me. It's not just my clients. It's a pretty standard response. Yeah. So this is why I say get in touch with the soma, because there's a deeper level of knowing, and it's not coming from the thinking mind. The executive mind function we need, but it can also get lost in its tangents and stories, and cannot always discern truth from fiction. The body will tell you the truth. And if you had meditation practice and protocols have been the thing that have transformed my life 100,000%. So practices of stillness and just little pieces of that at first. Feel the sensation in your body. If you're listening right now, just feel what's alive. I can right now feel like some tingling in my solar plexus and some aliveness up in the throat and the chest and the higher heart, feeling exuberant with something. Anyway, just that practice will bring you deeper into self-trust, self-knowing, and clarity about your experiences. And especially pay attention to when it keeps coming up. and your psyche is sort of presenting you with something, our impulse is to say, and I've done this over the years, it's one of the strategies I used to deny the abuse scenario with the porn, was like, I'm just making that up. It's not true, or whatever it is. And I see this in survivors across the board. I'm just making it up. It's easy to go down that route. So it's delicate with issues of sexual abuse, right? But you can also do some journaling on this, write down like, what are my patterns in relationship to sex, to intimacy, to love? What's alive in the second chakra? How, there's lots of ways to get at this. Pay attention to your dream life, connect to the higher self. If you journal at all or in meditation, these things can open up for you. But whatever's insistent, and write down everything that's going on in your dream life. Start just taking notes about you. If it's hounding you and haunting you and you can't get out from under, make it your primary purpose in a way, but gently and with a lot of gentle patience. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And can you also
Um,
enlighten us on how you have been supported spiritually, um, by your guides, by your oversoul, and what does that look like for you? Because I'm convinced that you could never be
yeah.
doing this unless you know that you are divinely
Yeah.
supported, infinitely supported. So talk about that in your
Yeah.
life.
Yes, and this one comes up in client sessions too. Like somebody comes in with an abduction thing, and I'm like, you have a big team helping you, right? Like, and sometimes they want to know so much about what happened with the Greys or with the blah blah blah, the reptilians. And it's like, no, no, no. We have to look at the light, the team first, because this will stabilize you to understand and cope with what's coming next. So I find this too, and I'm glad you brought this up, that we come in, I'm an example of this. I came in with powerful team, right? Um, for me, yeah, making contact with that was so key to being able to come through this intact. Like having a notion and a scent and a whiff and a sniff and an embrace from all of that over the years helped me kind of withstand the torrent of all of the darker stuff. So my team now is, I have a lot of beings that there's so many. And I've also said, I don't know how deep into the galactic you want to go. I've come here with a sense of being also part of a higher, I call them the Light Alliance, a family that was very interested back in the day when I was taken. They were interested in what was going on with galactic slave trade, and we could also include the enslavement of humanity. So with them, I understand deeper parts of the mission with that contact, and that ongoing presence or a connection to a higher vibrational field. But it's not just from that. I mean, I live out here in Alaska on the land. There's a very deep connection to. It's deeper than elemental. It's something primordial out here that is very something we remember in our deep cellular memory and even in our DNA. A lot of Sasquatch connection, and something with the inner earth, Nagas. There's a great protective masculine inside those energies for me, which I need right now. Women, ascended masters that come through for me on a daily basis. Also, a lot of Arcturians. They show up in my healing sessions. The quantum healing sessions that I do with clients, and it took me some years to realize, oh, they're also here for me. And dragon energies, like prolific dragon energies, very powerful. Also connected to something very primordial, timeless to the human experience and quite beyond. So that's just like a snippet and a snapshot. Yeah, certainly the higher
Yes, thank
self.
you. That's so beautiful that you're revealing all of that. I also identify with the Dragon
Yeah.
Collective so, so,
Mhm.
so much. The reason why I wanted you to
Yeah.
describe that is because people feel that they're alone. People feel that they're
Yeah,
isolated.
that's it. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, and it's good for everybody to remember. We don't come in, like I didn't sign up for this, so to say, without writing into the script a lot of support. So that's why when if we're in meditation, in an abiding kind of presence, we can tap into that. and then feel more resourced, like, oh, this is sweet. Not just here alone in this morass of suffering by myself. And that's one of the big lies of this 3D construct in the Matrix, is that you're at war with yourself. Nobody's got your back, and it's just dog eat dog out there. And what a lie. That's just not how it is. If we look deeper, we're recreating the paradigm of connection and connectivity and unity, based on the heart's frequency that's always been inside of us. We're just being guided back there again and again and again. And we forget, we come back. Yeah.
Uh, One other thing that you mentioned, because you came from an abusive childhood, is the real, and what you just mentioned about your perpetrators, how they're all harmed also. They're
Yeah.
programmed also. As a survivor, how do you manage this relationship? Because somebody off the street would automatically fly to rage, would fly to wanting, eye for an eye kind of thing. Where are you in your reconciliation of this
Yeah.
knowledge, being a spiritual being as well?
Yeah. Thank you. I love that. And that question came up in my LA interview as well. Mark said, I forget his language, but it was like that. Do you have a vendetta kind of thing? And it's like, that was a great question. And thank you for asking that, Emery, yourself. That I don't feel that inside of me. And the same answer is true that I gave to Mark, is like, I just want us all to heal. I don't have any kind of, I need to go out and harm somebody. That doesn't equilibrate the situation. I mean, I think it's holding the space of openness in my heart for what is. And knowing that there is an equilibrium that's much greater than the human construct, cosmic in nature, that's creating its own balance. Those people are serving their own time in hell already. So there's nothing further that me holding this graspy, dark, shitty energy is good. That's only harming me. I don't want that. My job is healing and bringing healing to others, healing to the people, healing to the collective, bringing light. That's my triumph. So those people are in the rear view. I don't wish anybody harm. No.
Yeah. And one of the more beautiful
Yeah.
things
And
that,
I think it can be useful to, we're going to go through anger and we're going to go through rage, and we should. Those are important waypoints on the path. You should be angry about what happened to you if you were sexually abused, because it's not okay. And that's a healthy and right response to your trauma. But it's not a station to camp out forever, right? And make a compound there. I just want to acknowledge that, like, yes, move through those feelings because you were victimized, and that's healthy. Yeah.
yes, everybody is going to go through their cycle of grief, their cycle that
Yes.
it's all the same cycle of grief, right? The
Yeah.
shock, the disbelief, the
Yeah.
anger.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's natural. And of course, this is not meant to say that feeling your authentic feelings is is wrong. It's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely right. I want to really give people permission to feel everything inside of them, even if it feels incongruous. It's a feeling, it's yours,
Mm-hmm.
and move through it. Yeah.
Yes.
Move through
And
it.
obviously never suppress, because that's just going
Yeah.
to erupt in some other form. Um,
Yeah.
just so we can kind of also cover, if you wouldn't mind, and I don't recall if you've ever spoken about this, but I would like to ask you, how is your physical body handling before and, let's say, currently? How is your physical
Yeah.
body
Thank you.
handling it?
Yeah. That's a great question. You're asking me great questions, Anne-Marie, that some interviewers don't get to. And I think that's an important one, because when we know that the more, I mean, this is corroborated by research across the board, that the more trauma we experience early on, it can really degrade health over time and limit our lifespan. If you ever look at the ACEs study, Adverse Childhood Experiences study, the more marks, tick boxes you have on that, your longevity, it's been clinically documented that you will not live as long. So that sounds a little morose, but I worked through a lot of PTSD, panic attacks, PTSD, very dysregulated nervous system, dissociation, and so on. And my nervous system is better and better and better over time, and especially with meditation, abiding in the space of the breath. What is that doing? It's calming the nervous system, and doing that over time, rewiring old programs has helped a lot. Now, my physical body, because I've been an athlete my whole life, instead of going into drinking and drugs and those things, I went into hardcore athletics for many years, and a lot of adrenaline seeking through that. But my body is pretty has been kept fit through physical doing. Haven't had a lot of disease, practice a lot of like herbal self-care and these things, but I could see how left untended, certain things could have gone down the wrong road for me. I was certainly noticing aging. It's humbling. It's very humbling. Yeah, but my physical is okay, but I think it needs more than somebody who hasn't been through this. There's so much trauma that system can hold on and function through, 20s, 30s, maybe 40s, 50s are starting to, things are untended trauma is going to create more disease. So that's also really great that this is coming up, so I don't have to carry that burden anymore physically. And my health can just keep improving. Yeah.
Mhm. That's very good to hear. That's wonderful,
Mhm.
because many people would not throw themselves into an activity that releases the dopamine, like, athletics. They would go to the other
Yeah.
direction. So I think,
It's a really good question though, in our self-care, when I talked to you about, I called it self-centeredness. Once we start to value our relationship with ourselves and kind of honor the body and what it's been through and connect with those child parts, connect with our heart for ourselves, then I wasn't good at self-care for years. I couldn't feel aspects of my, again, interoception. I didn't know if I was cold and needed a coat. I didn't know if I was hungry and needed food. I didn't know if I needed to pee. I was very disconnected at that very basic level, which is so sad when I like, oh, sweetie, it's okay. You can notice those things, because I was so dissociated in order to survive. That was a survival strategy, right? But my point was to be that just coming into a deepening of, oh, you can take care of your health. You can get better sleep. You can, you know, um, eat good foods, have good supplements, go to an herbalist, get acupuncture, I do lots of energy healing on myself. So that's also something to be brought up, because I'm gifted with some ability to be a healing channel. Well, first and foremost, work with yourself. So many different ways of illuminating the original template, which is built of light, eternal light.
that is just so beautiful. And I've come, even with my clients, and I'm sure you see it with your clients as well, the concept that we're all capable of these beautiful, great things.
Yes.
You're right, you're further along on your journey, let's say, than somebody who comes to you for help. It's the same thing. But we are all capable of healing ourselves, integrating our hearts and our minds together, as you so
Yes.
beautifully put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it's in us all. The original template is there. This comes up a lot in client sessions, that we're trying to restore the original circuitry, so to speak. The guides often say, see yourself as a body of light. Can you do this? And we get so caught in, I mean, yes, we're here in physical form and that needs care, but we forget our sort of spiritual hygiene and the bigger equation of who we actually are and what we're doing here as we could say fractals of source, right? So I'm excited by there's no ceiling to the growth and the expansion of consciousness that can happen when we are in alignment and kind of dropping all the old programming by the wayside. We're all conditioned in certain ways to keep our experience of being human truncated. So getting out from under that is so, so necessary, right?
Oh, beautiful. Well, Rebecca, this has been so enlightening, such a beautiful share on your part. I cannot give you enough praise and admiration. I hope you
Thank you so
understand.
much.
Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
you understand that, because the human spirit is unlimited.
Yeah.
And I think you are an amazing example of that. And so thank you for coming on this podcast. We could talk for hours, but I want to honor your time.
We
And
could talk for hours. Yeah. I want to just let your audience know too that whatever's going on for you, you have the inner resources somewhere inside of you. You might not feel that at the moment, but it's there. And we came in with that. It's there.
yes,
So feel hardened by
absolutely.
what's ahead.
No,
Yeah.
you're really bringing out something so very important, because I see people in our respective communities going outside of themselves. Oh, this person is going to do this for me. That person is going to give me this. I need to learn this. I need to learn that. And it's not about the external. It's about the internal. It's about learning you and being so sure of your path, of your true nature, that you are a fractal of source, that you are infinitely loved, infinitely supported, never alone. And, this is what gets me sometimes frustrated with some healers, let's say, that they don't illuminate that. And here you are illuminating that point and being such a beautiful example.
Oh, Anne-Marie, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for joining us today. Yeah. And certainly if your interest is piqued, go back and watch, number 22, 23 in the Bringing Light to the Darkness series on my YouTube channel, Series Blue. Yeah.
Yes, and I will definitely
Yeah.
put a link to those in the description below. And Rebecca, if somebody wants to reach out to you, wants to have one of your sessions, where can they find your
Yeah,
information?
RebeccaRoseBarfoot.com. Yeah, my website. You can link that below. And if you want to do some inner child integration or see what's your soul mission, what's your plan, or just, from the mundane to the very, expansive and infinite inquiries we can make in session or do some healing, whatever it is that, you need a hand, I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I just also want to say, this is the work that I do. I do it in my way. Rebecca does it in her way. This is not a competition. We are in this because we love humanity. We are servants to humanity, and there's room for all of us. If there's no way, shape, or form that I would ever, and this is another thing, a little pet peeve that I'm going to get out there, we are all in this together. Rebecca and I do very similar work. She has had her experience. I've had my experience. I am in no way going to tell anyone anything other than follow your heart. Follow where you go. My dog is
Follow what's in you.
getting a little
Yeah.
needs some attention here. So yeah, because I've noticed that as well in various communities, and I find it awful. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
We all
thank
have our uniqueness and no one is just like me or you or you or you or you. We all have our gifts and that's an important piece to bring in now. Yeah, supporting each other and working together. Thanks for that reminder.
Right.
Thank you.
And so again, thank you everybody for sticking out till the end. I highly recommend, if this is an interest to you, or if you feel that you are somehow a victim of either human trafficking or this kind of sexual abuse, please, there is hope for you. Follow your guidance.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do. There is light in the deepest of darkness. Doesn't even exist. It's merely an absence of light, and we are light embodied. So anywho, I can go on for another 10 minutes. My name is Anne Marie Morales. You can find my things at ammhypnotherapy.com. Blessings and love to all of you, especially to you, my dear friend, Rebecca.
Thank you, Anne Marie.